Good afternoon to the citizens of St. Bernard Parish. Today is July 2nd, 2020, and we have been in this COVID-19 saga since early April, and haven't spoken to the citizens of St. Bernard Parish since June 11th. So a lot has happened since then. We've been listening to our governor and his updates. We have been watching what's going on around our region. And things are starting to happen. People are starting to talk. We have this political, I'll say, you're either for a mask or you're against mask. And I want to address that today here in St. Bernard Parish and talk about what's going on around our region. Our governor had a press conference yesterday. We want to make sure we update the citizens of St. Bernard Parish and some other things that are going on here. So I want to start out by talking about the cases of COVID-19 here in St. Bernard Parish, how we're doing, what we want to do here in the near future, and why it is so important for us as citizens to respect one another and to continue to move along in this COVID-19 era and following all of the guidelines and information that's out there for us. So what I want to do is make sure that the citizens of St. Bernard Parish has the information that they need to act accordingly and to be to have some responsibility for yourself and for others around you and for your family. So let's talk about the numbers. Today we're at 629 cases. A majority of those people have become well. And it's a jump of 8 from yesterday. And we're really doing a deep dive into these numbers. And we get names every day of people who are new on the list. So you would figure that if we had 621 yesterday, which is what we had on a state website, we have 629 today, so that's an increase of 8. Well, the list that we got today on the increase was 4. So we have a lot of questions for the governor, for Louisiana Department of Health, and for Dr. Cantor, our regional expert, if you will, that advises us to make sure that we're talking about apples to apples and not apples to oranges when we're talking about these numbers. There are so many factors that go in to all of these numbers that you hear on the national news every day, and the governor talks about all of these numbers, and we have a lot of questions about them. One thing is for certain, that within the last couple of days, we have seen some increases in our cases here in St. Bernard Parish. We were expecting that. If you go back to April, we were about 2 weeks behind Orleans, Jefferson Parish, and starting to see significant amount of cases in our parish. So I want to make sure that all of our citizens understand these numbers. In St. Bernard Parish, we can go all the way back to, let me find my numbers here. Okay. In April, here in St. Bernard Parish, we were averaging about 13.1 cases a day. In May and June, and remember, we're at the beginning of July right now, so for the past 2 months, we averaged approximately 2.6 cases a day, right? So April, obviously, we were having some major problems. The talk was to flatten the curve, make sure that we can provide healthcare services to the general public, and not to overwhelm our healthcare system. We've done a great job in doing that. For the past 2 months now, we've averaged 2.5 cases a day versus 13.1 cases a day in the month of April. So we've done our job. We've entered some phases here, moving forward, opening up our economy. We dropped our guard a little bit around our families and what we do on the weekends, and what we do at restaurants, and what we do at our nightclubs, and what we do in our neighborhood bar rooms. So we've lessened our guard a little bit about those items. And over the last 2 days, now we only have 2 days into July, we're averaging now 4 cases a day. We're not back to 13. We're not over 13. We have some of those problems in other areas in our region, Jefferson or Orleans. Baton Rouge is a hot spot that our federal government is looking into, and Dr. Birx is calling our governor and making sure that they provide resources to make sure that that is something that is localized, right? If you have a child or a cousin or a relative that goes to LSU and they were in that Tiger Town barroom scene, I know many of our friends' children who come down with COVID-19, brought it home to their parents. Hadn't heard of any disastrous consequences of that yet from our friends, but that could very well be. We know we have a population out there that's vulnerable to this disease. And I knew I was going to go all around today on this and bounce around, but I want to make sure that we know that our citizens have the information to make their personal decisions in their life, right? Their daily life and what they do every day. So 2.6 for the last couple of months, 13.1 per day in the month of April, which our hospital had many problems during that time. We were running out of ventilators. We do not want to go back there. So for the last couple of days, hearing what's going on in our region, hearing what's going on in the nation, we wanted to make sure we start following these numbers. 4 a day in the last 2 days. So we're almost doubled what we were doing for May and June. I don't think just looking at the numbers, it's something we should really have a knee-jerk reaction to, but it's something I want you to know that we're looking out for the welfare of our citizens, and we want you to have all of the information. Our death rate, I want to talk about that a little bit. Since April 29th, okay, 2 months ago, we've had 4 deaths, all right? Through since March 26th through April 29th, we had 19 deaths. So for 2 months now, we hadn't had a death here in St. Bernard Parish. And we're hearing about increased death rates around the nation. We all look at national news now and we get all of our information there, most of it. We hear about the governor's concerns, Orleans Parish's concerns, Jefferson Parish's concerns about the death rates going up. We haven't seen that here in St. Bernard Parish. Remember, the death rate in this coronavirus, this COVID-19 virus that we're dealing with, is less than half of 1%. So you really have to be in that vulnerable group for it to affect you. But we still really don't know how it affects people my age. I'm 57, right? I'm going to be 58 soon. So I'm in that upper echelon of age that people would need to really check out. I have a hypertension problem, borderline diabetic, right? So I need to watch myself and what I do on a daily basis. So I'm asking all of the citizens of St. Bernard Parish, all of the citizens that I come into contact with, to be respectful of my space. Wear a mask if you're going to get within 6 feet of me, right? Because I'm going to do the same for you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to make sure that we get these numbers out there. So the numbers are something we're looking at. The death rate is something that we need to factor into our risk in our daily lives while we're opening up our economy, while we're playing baseball again, volleyball, our high school volleyball teams are practicing. We're getting ready to open up our schools, and we're going to open up our schools from what I understand. I'm not sure how that's going to be. We might be platooning students. Our superintendent is developing their plan, and they're going to get it approved, I believe, through the Bessie board and all of that good stuff. So our superintendent, Ms. Voce, sits on the Bessie board. It has a very good relationship with the governor. So I'm sure we're going to be very prepared for when our children go back to school. We talked about our death rate. We talked about our daily cases. Let's talk about hospitalizations. What's concerning to me is when we're talking about hospitalizations increasing in our nation and in our state, and I haven't got an answer to this question yet, but there's a question of whether or not they're talking about all hospitalizations or just COVID hospitalizations. Maybe they're trying to figure out what the total hospitalization rate is. Let's say it's 80%. Now we only have 20% available for COVID patients, and we're seeing cases going up, and people may be coming to the hospital, and we may overwhelm the hospital system. All right. So when they're talking about hospitalization rates are on the rise, I wonder if that's all COVID-19 patients. I don't think it is with some of the people we've talked to. But we're trying to nail that down for your information. Here in St. Bernard Parish, our hospitalization rate has been 0 for about a month and a half now, right? And a couple of weeks before that, it was 0 too. So we had a couple of patients about a month and a half ago that needed hospitalization. But we haven't had any since. I've talked to our director yesterday. We have no COVID patients hospitalized at St. Bernard Parish Hospital. We've had a number of patients come in with symptoms, send off for testing, and sent them home to wait for the results. And obviously, some of those are part of our daily COVID-19 positive test that we talked about earlier. And again, for May and June, our average was 2.5 or 2.6 cases per day reported. So our hospital being overwhelmed, that is not a concern of ours right now, right? So we've done our job. We've flattened the curve. And remember, when they talk about flatten the curve, they figured so many people were going to get COVID-19. And let's just say it was everyone. We just don't want everyone getting it at the same time. So we've done our job. And now we're loosening some of the restrictions at the government level, right? So that we can reopen our economy, live our lives to the fullest extent possible, knowing that a vaccine's on its way, but we still don't have therapeutics to treat it. They're treating COVID-19 kind of the same way they're treating the flu. I talked to one of my friends who came down with COVID-19, and he's older than me, so he's older than 57, has hypertension, and they're treating him with the Z-Pack. He's been about 3 days in now since his diagnosis, and his symptoms are reduced a lot in the last couple of days. So this is one of those things. And also, you got to remember, the healthcare community, they're learning every day how to treat the COVID-19 symptoms with patients. So things are a whole lot better today than they were back in April when we started this COVID-19 saga. Let's talk a little bit about the reason why the numbers are going up, not necessarily in St. Bernard. Remember, we're at around an increase of 4 cases a day, right, from the 2.6. So let's just keep that in mind. And remember that we're doing more testing now. So what the governor has explained in his press conference is that the concern is that the rate of cases are not increasing, they are increasing more than the rate of testing compared back to April. Now that's not happening here in St. Bernard Parish. Maybe it's because we're a destination parish. Maybe a lot of the people who come to St. Bernard are fishing. So they bring their boats, they go down the road, and they launch at Hopedale or Delacroix or Shell Beach, and they're out in the outdoors, and maybe that's why we don't see it a whole lot. Maybe we don't have a lot of nightclubs or places where people congregate at night. We have a bunch of small neighborhood ballrooms, and maybe that's part of the reason why our increase is not as much as other places, right? And again, let me just say, as I say that, it's still not time to let our guard down because this event is not over. I want to make sure I say that every time we get into that. So our hospitalizations here in St. Bernard Parish are doing great. Our cases, while they have increased in the last couple of days, we're watching that. Your parish officials are watching that every single day. With those two combinations, I feel good about what's happening in St. Bernard Parish. I'm so proud of our citizens and how they are, while we're opening up this economy, we are still respecting the guidelines, I think, and it shows in the numbers. But I do see some things going on in the younger generations here in St. Bernard Parish. Remember, our average age here in St. Bernard is 35, 37 years old. And they have children. They have parents. They have grandparents that we have to worry about. And I see a lax in following all the guidelines in that age group. And they have little children. My daughters are all that age, and they have children. And we worry about that, right? Hanging out with children in the neighborhood. Birthday parties. Just seems like those parties now are just a regular thing. You go to these parties, no one has a mask on, right? They might have 20, 30 people. It's outdoors, but no one has a mask on. So it's something that we really need to think about as individuals, worrying about other people. We need to be kind. We need to think about other people's space, and most of all, just respectful of what's happening and making sure that we have a mutual feeling and talk, if you will, with each other about what that space is and what are your guidelines and how you want to go through your daily life with your friends. There seems to be this political thing, and I said it a little early about mask, right? You're either for a mask or you're against mask, and you know, we got this political thing with Democrats and Republicans, and they seem to pick their sides, right? Well, what I want to do with the citizens of St. Bernard Parish is to make sure that you know that if you wear a mask, it protects you and it protects the people that you're with. And the percentages and your risk go way down when you wear a mask. Are we going to mandate that you wear a mask here in St. Bernard Parish? As of today, we're not. But I want you to have all of this information that we're giving to you today to let you know how important it is for you to adhere to all of the recommendations coming down from people way smarter than us, right? They've been through this and different diseases, right? We don't know how this thing will come back in the fall or what it's doing right now. People, we're trying to get a grasp of it, but we see the numbers increasing, right? So I just want our businesses here in St. Bernard Parish to make sure that if you cannot social distance in your business, I want you to make sure that your customers have a mask to wear. And if you're a customer and you're going into a business and you cannot social distance, which is maybe 80% of the businesses that you walk into, please wear a mask. Follow the recommendations. You will be showing respect for people that you come into contact with in that business. When you walk down an aisle at a grocery store, you're coming within 6 feet of someone. We know now that the droplets are transferred more than anything, more than on surfaces. It's the droplets, right? Masks aren't going to stop everything, but it reduces the risk for the people that you come into contact with. You go into Home Depot, you might be able to walk around Home Depot 70% of your time there and not come within 6 feet of someone. Have a mask in your pocket, right? And if you're going to go to the lane to check out, you're going to come into contact with someone. Put your mask on. That's all we're asking you to do, is be respectful of others. Wear a mask when you cannot socially distance, especially when you're indoors and you're going into a business. We all have a personal responsibility to do the right thing. And I'll say this also. By the same token, if you're going to walk into a business, whether it be a restaurant, a grocery, or to go buy clothes or a retail outlet, and you see that they're not observing the employees of that business, or there's too many people in there, don't go. You have that choice of not spending time, spending your money in that business. And let me reiterate, or let me say, that businesses are required for their employees who have contact with the public to wear a mask. If you're stocking shelves at a grocery store and you're in an aisle where people are going up and down, you need to wear a mask. That is required by the executive order handed down by our governor. So we are responding to complaints, but we shouldn't have to respond to complaints. You know, everyone needs to be responsible. We need to justify the freedoms we have here in this country, the freedoms you have here in St. Bernard Parish, and do the right thing. We can't legislate kindness. We can't mandate respect for other people. You're going to encounter people in any, whether it's Orleans or Jefferson where they're mandating masks, or in St. Bernard Parish where we're not, but we're asking you to wear them in situations where you cannot socially distance yourself. You're going to see that everywhere. So don't interact with those people in those businesses, and you have that choice. The only way that we're going to get out of this COVID-19 saga is to do our part. And if you look at all of the numbers here in St. Bernard Parish, we're doing our part. You guys haven't heard from me in a while because everything's going great. It's still going great here in St. Bernard Parish. We need to say this at this juncture, being that all of these things are happening around us, and we need to know as citizens of a community that we need to act like a citizen that is respectful of other people's space. Know that we have elderly people who are trying to go to the grocery shop that have no one else to bring them. And they are deathly scared to get out of their vehicle. We have those people. Right or wrong, or whether you think that's crazy or not, it doesn't matter. They are scared. You don't have a choice to determine how they feel. So please, if you're in a grocery, if you own a grocery, make sure that your employees have masks. Make sure that your customers have a mask to wear, and ask them to wear it when they come inside your business. It's so important. For that small, few of our community who are vulnerable, who want to get out and go to the grocery, who have to get out and go to the grocery. They're sitting in parking lots and waiting to, for the parking lot to go down so they can run in and get what they need. So think about that in the COVID-19 era here that we're living with in St. Bernard Parish. I want to make sure that you have the information that you need to do the right thing for you and your family. And with that said, I want to talk about a few other things that are happening here in St. Bernard Parish. It's July 4th weekend. I hope everyone has a great weekend planned. with their family. We obviously want you to be safe. We want you to be mindful of the COVID-19 that's happening. The governor mentioned yesterday, about 2 weeks after Memorial Day, is when we had a lot of our problems, and we've seen some increases. So we're expecting a couple of weeks after July 4th to have the same thing. So I'm hoping here in St. Bernard Parish, when we celebrate July 4th, that we can do that with all of these things in mind. Space, 6 feet, wash your hands, wear a mask when you cannot socially distance. So with that said, I want to talk about our July 4th celebration here in St. Bernard Parish. I can't imagine having a July 4th go by without celebrating. So we're going to have fireworks here at Sidney Torres Park, and that's all we're going to do. At 9:30, the fireworks will go off. It will be the biggest and best fireworks show that we've ever had here in St. Bernard Parish. It's going to start at 9:30, and we're asking people to come within distance so you can watch the fireworks show. Stay in your car or get out of your car as a family unit. Social distance from people in the park, in the parking lot. You can park, and there are other parking areas around here, Walmart being one, across the street at the bank. Sidney Torres building across here. You can park on Jean Lafitte. You can park at the shoe department over here, but the movie theater, you'd be close enough to see the fireworks show. Especially here in St. Bernard Parish, where the War of 1812 was designated as Independence Day for years here in our country. We have to celebrate Independence Day now more than ever. With everything going on in the world, in our country, we're so divided. We need to celebrate that, and we need to come out, watch the fireworks show, and then go home safely while we social distance. I want to say that when you come to the fireworks show, you can tune in to your radio dial at 94.7, and the patriotic music will play along with our fireworks show. It's either that, or you can Google, am I right, Rachel? Download the Lake 94.7 app, and you'll be able to play that on your Bluetooth speakers. Am I right? I'm terrible at technology, guys. But you'll be able to, you know what to do with that app. You can listen to that music as we play the fireworks. So I think it's important that we do that, even though we are trying to make sure that our residents are responsible. We think we're doing this in a responsible way here in St. Bernard Parish. Our CARES Act, the money that we are submitting to federal government, of which we have approximately $8 to $9 million we can apply for. Our first application was about $750,000. We see no refusal of that at this time, no problems with that submittal. So while we're still having challenges in our budget, I want the people of St. Bernard Parish to know that we're on top of that. Our sheriff has some expenditures that he's going to be seeking reimbursement for. And remember, most of those reimbursements are for our first responders, our sheriff's deputies, and our firefighters. So we're on top of that. We're going to get every penny that is due to us, and we're working on our budget every day. And I want to thank our council for giving us all the support that we need going into the end of the year with the reduction of sales taxes that we're seeing. I want to talk about our census. Rachel gave me some information on where we're at in our census collection here in St. Bernard Parish. And remember, every person who fills out the census and sends it in that is counted as a resident here in St. Bernard Parish means another X amount of dollars for St. Bernard Parish from the federal government and from state government. So it means so much. Right now we are 11th in the state of Louisiana out of 64 parishes. We are 0.1% away from being in the top 10. So I'm disappointed, citizens of St. Bernard Parish, that we're not in the top 10. We ought to be number one. There's no excuse for St. Charles being ahead of us at 65.8%, and we're at 58.1%. So we got to get it going. I don't want to send out any disciplinary actions or running suicides or whatever for our citizens. That's my basketball stuff coming out. I'm talking way too much today. But this is important. We really need to motivate ourselves. It takes seconds to get online and Google Census 2020 and fill it out. It takes no longer than a minute to do that. It's so important for us. We are at 58.1%. Our state average is 55.8%, and the national average is 61.7%. So we have 5 parishes that are above the national average, and we need to get up in the top 5 here in Louisiana. So we said a whole lot today. And I am so proud of our citizens for how we are treating this COVID-19 era serious. We are doing better than our counterparts within our region. We're doing better than our counterparts at the state level. And really, on a national level, you'll pull up the LDH website and you'll see the only parish in the state that's yellow, which means good. Orange, I think, is bad, or red, right? We're yellow, so we're doing good. We cannot drop our guard on that. We need to continue to do the things we're doing. I'm asking our younger generation to man up, if you will, and do the right thing here in St. Bernard Parish. So, with that said, have a great July 4th weekend and be safe, and God bless.